What's going on, good people? Welcome to another episode of Gridiron Views. Hey, this is your boy, the historian Ryan Walker. We got Tyree Holland and our guy Dre in the building for episode 6. Training camp is a hard knock life. So we got to roll with it today, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and talk about the hard knocks of training camp and the dog days, but we also have some other things that we're going to get into today. But before we do, let's go ahead and welcome to the panel once again. Welcome back, Dre. What's going on, Tyree? How y'all fellas doing?
I'm in the cut like peroxide, as a good friend of mine's always said. It's a beautiful day outside, eating good, God is good, family good, man. What more can you ask for?
You pretty much said it all, man. Life is a hard knock life, I guess you could say. But the Lord is always with us, so we always up. Let's get into the show, though, man. Will Jahmyr Gibbs match Bijan's NFL contract reset?
Bijan Robinson just shattered the running back market with a massive 3-year, $75 million extension with $51 million guaranteed. And now all eyes are on Jahmyr Gibbs. Coming off an explosive season and taking over as Detroit's clear bell cow, Gibbs is actively negotiating with the Lions to match or top the $25 million per year mark. With NFL Network confirming negotiations are active, the real question isn't if Gibbs gets paid, is whether the Detroit Lions are willing to crown him as the highest paid running back in NFL history.
I can say at this point is you got to lock in these players that are generational talents that have proven and shown their worth since they've been there. Because again, right now is the best time to lock in a running back. Just like the cost of inflation on milk, the cost of inflation on players is going to continue to go up. And if you decide to hold out and wait and wait and wait, you just pretty much look foolish. And let's just be honest, this is what we think of fools.
Don't ever turn your nose up at wisdom. Only a fool despises knowledge.
And the knowledge of this is you have these football players that are going to be resetting markets. You can lock them in for an expensive price now or a more expensive price later. I would say let's just go ahead and pull the Band-Aid off and pay for it now. Falcons have done it with Bijan Robinson, and the way that they did it, they pretty much ripped up the contract, extended the 5th-year option, and added that money after that option. So to me, the Falcons aren't going to lose out, and then they're going to still have a lot of cap space to build around him. Andre, how do you think that management should handle Jahmyr Gibbs' contract when it comes to building on top of that?
Before we get into that, let me say I salute Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs for acting their ways, right? They're doing exactly what they should be doing. They're two premium players at a disrespected position in recent history. It was just a few years ago. Saquon was going back and forth with the Giants over $13.5 million. Now we got running backs making almost $10 million more than that a year. So I look at this situation, and to me, I'm actually surprised that Bijan got paid first. I thought that Jahmyr would be the one to get his deal first because I thought the Lions could afford to play without Jahmyr Gibbs. Whereas I think Bijan, the whole offense is kind of built around Bijan with the Falcons. With the Lions, you have the luxury of having a Jared Goff still, right? You have J-Mo, you have Amar Raw, you have Laporta, you have weapons. So I think you'll be fine. And that's not to say the Falcons don't have weapons, but they don't have Jared Goff. So to me, it was actually a surprise that Bijan was the first one to get paid. And I think the effect of that is that, the Lions have to pay Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, and I don't think it was ever a question if they would pay him. It was how much. Now, the benchmark is $22.5 million, so I'm guessing that that's where the conversation probably starts now, right? 22.5. I'm assuming he wants to reset the market, just like every athlete does when they're up for their payday. Hats off to him, and I'm happy for the running backs making a comeback and getting their money.
Hey, you just letting them know, Andre. I'm with you on that. Next topic. How do injuries turn training camp into a gamble?
Training camp is a high stake tightrope where coaches force unconditioned summer bodies into full contact and high intensity drills. The gamble isn't just about handling high heat in the summer, it's about pushing players enough to focus on week one and avoiding soft tissue injuries and joint trauma to non contact snaps. Front office risks hundreds and millions of dollars in guaranteed cap space on practice reps, knowing a single awkward plant or routine block can wipe out an all pro before the official season even starts.
I think that this conversation is an interesting one to me because I feel like we've already been talking about it, especially here on Gridiron Views. Just maybe in a different way. We've talked about the turf versus grass. We've talked about rule changes. We've talked about player safety. And to me, training camp is part of that same conversation. Back when I was playing, right, and I only play high school ball. I'm not trying to compare that to the NFL, but we did 3 days. Right. And the one thing about 3 days is by the time football season came around, we felt more prepared for the grind of the actual football season. Mentally, physically, we were just ready. And I think that with the new CBA and less practices and less padded practices, less time to hit all, it's just becoming less and less and less practice. But how are the players preparing their bodies for war if they're not doing it in practice, is my question. And I think that they're just not practicing enough. And I think that's the real gamble as opposed to practicing too much.
I mean, I just look at it from a standpoint of the only way you can get better is if you do play football, but then it becomes a crapshoot at that point, just like in Vegas. When you're shooting craps, some guys can survive and make it. Some guys get injured off of freak accidents. I could tell you all the time, one of the best offensive tackles, who's a pretty much NFL Hall of Famer, Tony Baselli, who had a short career was cut short because of shoulder injuries after 7 seasons. You're talking about a guy that played for Tom Coughlin, that coached the New York Giants back in the day, but when he was with the Jags, he ran a very tight ship. And one of the things that was different about Baselli, as offensive tackle, you got to have a few things. You got to have your shoulders and you got to have your legs and your back. If you don't have those, you're not gonna make it. And he dealt with injuries in practice. He also dealt with injuries throughout the game. So he was consistently banged up. Um, you look at Javon Walker, dealt with multiple knee injuries, hurt in practice before, and also got hurt in games. But again, when you look at these guys that are playing football and having their livelihood, the NFLPA has stepped in and they've limited some of the practice that these players are having now. Because back in the day, they used to run two-a-days back in the day. Back when in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, when the NFLPA wasn't as strong as it is now, and it doesn't carry as much weight. And most of the owners are looking at, they don't want to pay a product that's going to continue to be injury prone or not be able to produce during crucial times of the season. So I think that it's tough to think about, but one of the things that I'll always say is I believe that they have to look out for the player safety if they're going to have them for later on this season. That's what I say. What do you guys think?
So, player safety to me, yes, you have to look out for the player safety. But part of that is also the right preparation. And I just think that they didn't find the right balance of time on, time off for practice with the NFL and NFLPA. I think they did a poor job. I think they've taken too much practice away. And I think that that is cause for more injury. Obviously, these guys being bigger, faster, stronger than they were back in the day also plays a role into it. But the only way to prepare for the train wreck that happens on every play is to actually somewhat simulate that in practice, right? Like, especially in the trenches. I played O-line. I like watching the trenches when I watch football. Trench play over the years has gotten worse. Why is that? Because there's less practices for these guys to actually get physical and put their hands on each other. So I think you're getting a declining product, but it's also worse for player safety long term, too, honestly.
True,
Um,
true, true.
Let me ask you though, do you think that training camp injuries destroy rosters too fast?
So to be honest, I think that it does at times, but at the end of the day, it's still football. You're still going to have to practice and you're going to have to get in game shape to be able to withstand the blows and really be able to build your body up into having a callus because people don't really realize it during the off season when you have a lot of banging going around. And when we say banging, we're talking about pads clacking, players tackling, being taken down to the ground, and being able to do it full speed. That builds a callus, that builds habits. And a lot of the time, the more you play football, the less injuries that you have. Now, as we said before, the surfaces play a big part in it, but when you have guys that are not properly conditioned by sitting out during preseason and not getting in game shape, that also plays into the big part of being able to participate and stay healthy throughout the season.
Preseason injuries initiates a quick domino effect. Losing a primary starter forces unprepared backups into elite workloads before systems and chemistry are fully established. This instantly exposes possible depth issues, diluting practice squads, quality, forcing GMs into panic trades because teams have zero cap flexibility to replace high earning starters midsummer. In the middle of August, it burns through early roster depth and leaves a franchise completely unprepared when the actual 17 game season kicks off. How do you feel about that, Andre? Like, because all of us have dealt with injuries to our one of our favorite players, our big franchise player, and we were wondering like who is it gonna like take that position? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually think we blame injuries a little too much. Now, don't get me wrong, like some injuries definitely change everything. Rye alluded to it earlier. You spoke about it a little bit too. If your franchise quarterback or like an all pro rusher goes down, could that change the dynamic of your season? Of course. Nobody's going to argue that. But football has always been a game of attrition and everybody gets hurt. Everybody. But look at the 49ers, right? They're barely into training camp and they're already dealing with another wave of injuries across the roster. That's frustrating, but it also raises a bigger question. At what point do injuries stop being an excuse and start becoming an organized challenge? Because the difference is some organizations are ready for it, others aren't. That's why we don't always think it's an injury problem. Sometimes it's a developmental problem. Too many teams collect talent, they build a great starting lineup, then they cross their fingers and hope nobody gets hurt. That's not roster building, that's wishful thinking. Your backup shouldn't start learning their jobs after the starters get injured. They should already be ready. Your third corner, your swing tackle, rotational defensive lineman, your backup quarterback, all those guys have to be prepared. Because playing football growing up, the one thing that was drilled into all of us was next man up, right? But if you're not focused on developing the next man up and all you're focused on is drafting stars and putting them in the best position to win, then are you really building a team or are you just building a collection of stars?
When you look at it, like we say, the depth is one of the biggest things that you have to have. But the issue with that, like we're saying about depth at this point, most teams are not able to garner that type of depth because of a lot of contracts. A lot of players are taking that up. Yeah, you have guys that are backups, but are they capable of carrying the load of the starters? You know, one of the biggest superstars in the NFL at one point was Michael Vick. We watched him go down with a broken leg at a preseason game against the Baltimore Ravens, and that Falcons team was one of the worst and it made Bobby Petrino quit during the middle of the season, if you remember.
Oh, wait.
So when
Yeah.
you really see the damage that is done from sometimes depending on who it is that goes down, I don't know. Some teams can replace those type of superstar players with great production, but then you have teams that can't do it because another great player is Billy Sims, Heisman Trophy winner, the original. Well, I'm sorry, he was the second original number 20 for the Detroit Lions. Since we were kind of talking about Gibbsy, Billy
Yeah.
Sims blew his knee out, and it pretty much destroyed the rest of his career when he couldn't even pass a physical, and it took them years to be able to find a back, and then a few years later they get Barry Sanders. So again, when you sit back and you look at it like Andre was saying, how can you have the next man up, and how can you replace a superstar? Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't.
You mentioned that, Rod. That takes me back to last week's episode when you were talking about your quarterback room. You got
Mhm.
3 guys that know the playbook like the back of their hand. To me, I feel like that's a benefit for Atlanta. What's your thoughts on that?
It depends on how it goes because again, you don't have anybody that you can rely on at this point. Let's just be honest. You're
Hold on. Why
hoping.
do they know the? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but why do all three of these quarterbacks know the playbook with the by the back of their hand this
Well, here's the
early
thing.
into Stefanski's tenure? That's what I want to know.
Well, you have a
I don't
quarterback
believe
in
it.
Tua who played in a system that was similar to what Stefanski ran in Cleveland. So he has the concepts, it's the terminology. Jack Strand is a young, bright quarterback. That's the third string quarterback that's been getting pretty much all the first team, majority of the first team reps this
Mm,
offseason, while Tua
remember you
battle
telling
has
me
been
about
battling
him?
back injuries, and Penix still has not been cleared for 11 on 11s. And he's been doing all right with 707s, but they're still waiting for him to be cleared. So the reason why all three of these quarterbacks have to know it, we know when you talk
No,
about.
how do they already know it was my question. Not that they have to. I understand why every player
Oh, the
has to know
reason
the
being is
playbook,
because they
but
spent
how?
time.
There's no way. There's no way, Rod. There's no
I
way you
just
telling me that these three quarterbacks
Dre.
know the playbook like the back
So
of their
Dre,
hand in
I
year
just
one. There's
answered. So
no
Dre, the
way.
reason. So Dre. So the reason why they know that playbook is because they spent a lot of time off of it. I just explained to you that Tua played in a very similar system down in Miami. The difference is the terminology. That's it. It's not much of a change in it because he literally walked through the door and they already tabbed him as the starter. Just to be honest. Right
Okay,
now, we're
well,
waiting to see if Penix is going to be able to battle back.
all three of them do not know that playbook like the back of their hand right now. I'm sorry. Stefanski has
We
not
can
been
agree.
there for a
We can
full year. There's multiple examples of NFL players coming out and saying it takes till year 2 until they truly feel comfortable within the scheme.
So
I
here's the
don't
thing.
think you can know a playbook like the back of your hand until you feel that comfortable in the scheme.
Not true. We can agree
Mm.
to disagree on that because again, you have guys that are highly intelligent that do know this playbook. And the thing is, what makes it different is going through it. You can know the playbook, but it's definitely a big difference with stepping on the football field. Period. You can know it page for page, but if you can't execute it, it means nothing. So them knowing the playbook, that's easy. It's executing that's going to be the hard part because
Well,
they
the
have new
ex-
teammates. They have to get timing down. They also have to have not just the timing down, they also have to understand the blocking schemes just as well as the offensive linemen because guess what? They got to stand behind it. So again, you can know where everybody is going, what the assignments are, but until you are battle tested all the way through, it means nothing. But they do know the playbook because again, even Kevin Stefanski said it himself. They all picked it up. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated in that system.
They might know. They might have the basics of the playbook down. They don't have all the intricacies and all that down in the playbook yet. They don't.
Well,
I'm sorry.
again,
They don't. They
we
don't. There's
so
no
again,
way. I
we can
refuse
agree
to
to
believe
disagree,
it.
bro. I have no problem with it. We can agree to disagree on this one because I'm not budging on it, and neither are you. So we might as well just go ahead and move to the side.
Well,
because it's
look,
pretty much like two bulls going at it.
to bring it back to our original topic, right? I think actually the Broncos are actually a good example of a team that are putting stock in development. They retained almost every single one of their players from last season, and they added Jalen Waddle. When I say almost every single one of their players, they lost JFM on defense. That's it. So
True.
I think that that's an organization that understands development is important and that they are focused on the guys in house. It kind of honestly reminds me of that college NIL approach that we kind of been speaking about lately, right? Where you try to retain and just keep guys in the building and hope that the longer they're in the system, the better they'll be. Like, but continuity throughout the roster, not just at the top of your roster. And I think that's the difference between the really good organizations and the organizations that have one-off seasons. Right? There's consistent contenders, and then there's teams like the Commanders who, I mean, they made it to the NFC Championship, and outside of that, they haven't done anything since the '80s. My God, just
No,
Come on,
no,
Andre.
can't do
Don't do
that
that.
because they won a Super Bowl. They won a Super Bowl in '91 with
oh,
Mark Rippon. Don't
excuse
do that.
me, since the
Yeah, they
'90s,
won it the year
early
after your
'90s.
Giants. Yes.
Excuse me. They haven't done anything since before the Fresh Prince of Bel Air was aired. Better.
No, the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air was on TV at that time in
I thought it
'91.
was. I thought it was '92.
No, no, it was on. It
Mm,
was on in '91.
Okay, well, my fault. Before I was born. How about that?
You ain't right, Andre. You ain't
Hey, but,
right at
but here's the
all.
thing: the one thing that Denver better hope for, they better hope Waddle could stay healthy because him and his teammate Tua have been as brittle as pecan brittle.
Oh
Seriously,
man.
since they've been in the league.
Man,
It's the
Jalen Waddle is
truth.
about to be a top 10 receiver in the NFL. You just
But
wait
what
this year.
happened? Got hurt, right?
This year he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver in the NFL.
I want to see it happen. I want to see the young man
I'm stamping
succeed.
that. I'm
No, I want to
stamping
see
that
him.
right now. I am applying my stamp to that.
Okay,
Top 10 wide receiver this
cash
year.
it in.
I'm buying all the stock.
Okay. Well, here's the
Okay.
thing: are you gonna buy the stock if Tua can stay healthy past week 5?
I mean, he
I'm just
can't even
asking.
stay healthy into the season. And he dealing with something right now. Like, you ask
Hey,
me if
we
he can stay
look.
healthy to real games?
Hey, look. We
Come
talked about
on,
this
right?
here. Tua say he wants to be a family man, and as I alluded to last week, it came from possibly maybe the reproduction side. That's why that back is hurting. I'm just making a joke about that. I'm sorry, man. Tua, get
I
better,
Hey,
mean,
man. We
yeah,
need you to be out here
look,
on this field.
you said Tua wants to be a family guy, right?
There's nothing wrong with that.
He is positively the man that'll make you do the things that laugh and cry, right? It's something like that. That's what it said on Family Guy.
But you
I
know the
mean, it
sad part
lines
about
up.
it.
He'll make you laugh and
But
cry in the same game. He'll
but
throw
here's
4
the sad
touchdowns
part.
and then 3 picks.
But here's the sad part. In Miami, he pretty much threw a lot of people under the bus, and he's trying to change his image now that he's in a whole nother city. The difference is, even though Atlanta is really has been a bad franchise, the fans they hold on to stuff, and they're not like
Terrible
Miami
franchise,
fans
you ask
where
me.
Miami fans just kind of let it go to the wayside. They were upset about it and they celebrated when Tua left. But for you to say, "Oh, I want to be a family man" at this point, it's kind of we respect it, but at the same time, it's like, dude, we want to know what you're gonna do on the football field. We don't care about your off field life unless you're getting in trouble. We don't care about what you do off the field. We want you to be a
Maybe he
happy
went to
family
Atlanta to
man.
retire, right? Maybe that's what he
Say
went
again?
down there to do. To rob y'all of some more money, even though it's only a mill. He said, you know what, I'm gonna get my money
Oh,
and I'm gonna
Miami's
just
paying
live
him the
my
bulk
life.
of that. Miami's paying him the bulk of that. We're
That's
only
why I
paying the
said,
vet minimum.
yeah, I know y'all only playing about a mill or so. But he said I can
But
make some good money. I can live in Atlanta. I can raise my
uh,
family. You
I'll be
know, I
honest with you.
mean,
You know what? Tua, as I allude to, as I've said on my other show that I work on, the Birdcage LLC, it's a segment that I call Piedmont Palisades. And Piedmont Palisades is Piedmont Hospital, ladies and gentlemen. We got a couple of permanent residents that are in Piedmont Palisades. And the thing is, Tua has already started to buy property over there. He's pretty much buying property next to Braylon Trice and freaking Troy Anderson. Now, Troy's still on the pup list right now. And we were talking about injuries. He still has yet to perform. Braylon Trice is checked out of Piedmont Palisades and he's been on the field. But let's see if he can get through the season. So that's not good when you have a guy that's supposed to be starting coming in having issues off the rip. You know,
You
that's
know what
Bama
is
built.
good though,
It
Ra?
is what
Oh
You
no,
know
we
what
ain't
is
gonna let
good,
that
Ra?
slide.
it is.
Oh no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. We ain't worried about it. You know, we got to
It-
go take him in for treatment anyway. You know, the mutts they start acting up. You got to go take him to the vet every once in a while.
yeah,
But
you
you
know
know
what?
what
You're
But you
is
right.
know,
good,
But you
right?
know what? No, you're right. You got to take us in for treatment. But the main thing that they feed us to get better, they give us a little bit of elephant pate that's actually at -3 degrees. It actually helps your blood flow. You know what I'm saying? Just like a
Oh
running mate.
wow. Oh
Yeah,
wow.
okay.
Oh wow.
Well,
Okay, man.
I got some
Sometimes you
good
gotta air
news
it
for you,
out.
Ra. I got some good news for you, Ra. Speaking of airing it out, Tyree, some great news.
What's the good
Neighbors
news,
back.
Andre?
Neighbors
Oh.
is back, ladies and gentlemen. And
Uh-oh.
Abdul Carter he's looking different. Arvell Reese he's beating Andrew Thomas on a third down and a one-on-one edge rusher snap. Oh man. It might get dangerous this year because you were talking about putting people in a hospital. This defense, we might do a whole lot of that this year.
Mm. I was gonna
Mhm.
say
Yeah.
we heard that about Abdul Carter last year, but the
Uh-oh.
person that
He was
Uh-oh.
the rookie
outdueled him was
last year, though.
James Pierce Jr. I'm just saying,
Mm.
the guy that
Yeah.
really got laughed at coming out of Tennessee.
Lock
I'm
him
just
up.
saying he was the best
He
rookie,
should
rookie
put him in a.
edge. You know what I'm saying? Rookie edge
He
last
beat
year.
him to the precinct. That's where he
And
beat him
here's the
to.
thing.
That's where he
And he
beat him
got
right to the
look,
precinct.
he got snubbed out of the defensive player of the year.
Mm,
We all
He
know
got
that.
snubbed from a prison sentence. That's what he got snubbed
You know
from.
what? I know you. Wait a minute. I know you ain't talking. You right. But you know what though? You're right. He got snubbed from a prison sentence. You're absolutely right. I think you need to make sure that your doggone defensive end stop eating them bean pies and walking on the corner selling them newspapers. That's what I need you to stop doing with my boy. Abdul
Is he
Carter.
getting sacks? As long as he start
No.
getting some sacks, I don't care.
Hey, look. But right now he ain't getting sacks. He just getting slices of that bean pie.
In practice, he
Lord,
is.
Lord have mercy. You know what? You know what? Today's been a good show, guys. This is Gridiron Views. It's a hard knock life. Episode 6. More life, more blessings.